Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, and it's Monday. On Mondays, we do tier lists, and on Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Did you touch the thermostat? Did you turn it up? Well, of course not. Did somebody fiddle with the thermostat? Yes, it's 85 degrees. 85? Do you have any idea how much even a few degrees can impact the gas bill? Of course I do. It's unthinkable.
Dad? Kurt, what's going on in here? Why is it so hot?
Someone fiddled with the thermostat. What? Who would do that?
This week, I wanted to do a fun one for you. This tier list is how bad or good your ally Pokemon of this will be in solo queue. This is always a fun tier list. I'm just gonna give you a snapshot. Okay, Jake. I'm gonna give you a snapshot of how I see a lot of allies who hop in with you. A lot of this is for fun, but I'm gonna give you my real impressions of what it's like to be paired with all of these Pokemon. As always, you can be as good or as bad with any of these Pokemon as possible. You can be the worst Duraludon in the world and the best Buzzwole in the world, two Pokemon who have almost like opposite win rates, right? So Duraludon very, very high, Buzzwole very, very low. It doesn't matter if you play any of the Pokemon that I think are often not the best. Just know this is what I think, and maybe a lot of people think when they hop into a game of solo queue and see what you lock in. I would love to hear your reaction to your favorite Pokemon in the comments. Please let me know what you think. This is gonna be a real fun one. All right, our tiers for today. We have our God tier. We're only gonna have one Pokemon in the God tier. We're not fragging Norse around here. We've got our solid teammate tier, our S tier. We have our A, very good Pokemon tier, A tier. We have our B tier. Wow. Well. Still got the B tier. We've got our C tier, the can't say I love it tier. We have our D tier, our Drain Crown Memorial tier, and we have finally an E tier, either the best or worst ever, because there are some Pokemon that truly fall into the E tier. Where do we want to start here? Let's start with Cinderace. Cinderace, I think, is a solid pick for a B tier Pokemon. Sometimes you have really, really good ones. Sometimes you have really, really bad ones. But in general, it's hard to find someone who's not amazing, at least, at pressing the A button. So even if your Cinderace isn't the best in the world, they're still at least okay, because all they really need to do is tap A to be okay. I'll put Cinderace B. I think they're usually an okay choice. Now, once you get into lane Cinderace or something like that, you start to worry a little bit. But if your Cinderace is higher up on the side there, they call center, seems like they know what they're doing. All right, B tier. B tier seems fine. Where do I want to go? Let's throw down some nice ones here. Oh, okay. Where do I put you? Gosh, I even set this up before I went through every Pokemon, but as I'm doing it, my brain is just going, wow, what do we do with you? Okay. Let's go with Cramorant, another B tier choice, I think. Cramorant, it's rare to find a Cram that isn't at least decent in lane, and regardless of what moveset they choose, they usually use their Unite inside of a fight. I wouldn't say they're amazing, but they usually are a solid Pokemon, and they don't lose your lane super hard, so losing lane can be really detrimental, and these Pokemon don't really run into it. Oh, I see one who is, I have to do this, Talonflame. Talonflame is one of the worst Pokemon to have on your team. It shouldn't be. Talon is a really good Pokemon, and you can do very, very well with it if you know what you're doing. Your Talonflame, the one that's on your team, is going to back cap at Rayquaza. They're going to get KO'd for doing it. They're not going to show up to a single team fight. They're not going to use their Unite move correctly. They're going to just run away from every situation. Your Talonflame, for whatever reason, is going to be the reason you lose the match. I hate to say it. I love Talon, one of my original Pokemon that I got really, really good with. And it's just a tragedy when you get a Talonflame on your team sometimes. Let's see. I'm gonna take Venusaur. I'm gonna put Venusaur A. Venusaur, to me, it's rare that I get a Venusaur in my team that's just so bad that they don't know how to play the game at all. I think Venusaur is usually a solid choice to be on your team. It's hard to be too bad with Venusaur, and it actually does well in lane, I think even better than something like Cinderace, so I usually think Venusaur is pretty good. It's high B, low A, I would say. Gengar. Gengar is... I'm either putting the, you know what? I'm going to put this either best or worst ever. I almost want to put this C tier because I actually find that Gengars on my team, they just don't seem to be able to ever put it together for whatever reason. They take one jungle rotation and leave. However, from time to time, you do get someone who actually knows how to play this Pokemon, and when they get a lead with Gengar, they're unbeatable. This is either one of the best or worst that you could ever have on your team, I think. Gengar, I think, fairly fits into that. Let's throw something up in S. Mime. Hard to be bad with. Gets good at level 4. I mean, it's good at level 1. Gets good at level 4. Its Unite move is good. Mime is just one of those Pokemon that it's... if you're really good with Mime, watch out. But even if you're decent with Mime, it's always a really solid teammate. I think it's a totally reasonable place to put Mime in the S tier for teammates for sure. Another really solid one. This might make it into the S tier as well. I'm trying to think if it gets that high. It's usually pretty dang good. I'm going to put it up there as Slowbro. I think Slowbro players are often very good. Again, this is another Pokemon that it's hard to beat inside of lane, or path as the game calls it. Good at level 4. Its Unite move shuts down an enemy carry. Even if they use the Unite move on the wrong Pokemon, it still holds a Pokemon in place for a long time. So I think this Pokemon is often a very good teammate to see. And you'll notice sort of some of the wilder carries are going to be near the bottom of this list because I often find players don't know how to play some of the wilder carries. Let's talk about Garchomp. I think Garchomp's actually doing pretty good in the game right now, but I don't think ally Garchomps are often very good. I think people don't really know what to do with Garchomp. They stay under-leveled too long, and then when they finally get their levels, they don't seem to be able to know how to use it inside of fights. I don't think it's Drain Crown, Memorial tier, D tier bad, but I do think most ally Garchomps are not cutting the mustard. Whatever that means. Let's see, where to go next? Let's go with Greninja. Greninja, I'd say, is C. I think Cinderace is a little easier to use than Greninja, and boy, this one's close. This one's close to either the best or worst, but I'm rarely seeing the best ever Greninja players anymore. I think it's because the meta right now is so heavy in crowd control effects that it just really makes it hard for certain Pokemon to excel. I'm gonna put Greninja down here in the C tier. I'm often not impressed with my ally Greninjas, to be fair. It's not the end of the world, but I'm not impressed. Zeraora, either the best or worst ever. Probably the worst ever. Zeraora is one of the worst played Pokemon in the game. People play this Pokemon so bad. However, every now and again, someone comes in with Zeraora and they absolutely know what they're doing and they pop off like crazy. It's not D tier bad because I actually see some good ones. I never see good Talonflames, so that's why it's D tier bad. Let's go Snorlax. Snorlax is either A or S. I'm gonna put it A. The only reason this gets out of S tier for me is because of Flail. People play Flail from time to time, and while you can do pretty well with Flail if you know how to carry, in general, Flail is pretty not good. It's kind of trolling, especially for the role. When you see Snorlax on your roster, you don't expect that your team's getting sort of a melee carry. You expect that you're getting a tank. In general, though, even with that, block is amazing, heavy slam's amazing, its Unite move is good, and it's a big old tank. And I find that Snorlaxes do pretty well. Another Pokemon that does pretty well is Wigglytuff. Pretty good. Sometimes you get some Wigglies that just can't seem to figure it out. They love to throw their Unite move at like 240, 230 for some reason. I don't know what it is about Wigglytuffs, but they will not have their Unite move for Rayquaza. Other than that, I do think Wigglies are usually a pretty solid choice to have on the team, and they've been doing a lot better lately, along with a Pokemon like Eldegoss. I don't think Eldegoss is S tier for me, because it usually doesn't do that much as the match goes on, but early to mid, I think this Pokemon's very, very good, and people seem to understand how to play it a little bit better lately, which is good. It also can heal and give shield, so overall, I think LD is a pretty solid Pokemon to see on your team. Lucario. I'm gonna put it either the best or worst. For some reason, this is actually even closer to better than that. They're usually not the worst thing ever, but sometimes they are the best thing ever. You get, with Lucario, what you get is you get people who just seem to do a whole lot of nothing, or they seem to dominate everything. You know what? I can't put it this low, because even its low isn't that low. I think I have to put this B. It's in a weird place, but it just doesn't get the lows of, say, Zeraora or Gengar for me. It still does okay in Path. I'm gonna put this B, but you do see some really good Lucarios. You definitely do. I'm not too stressed when I see one, but I rarely see them anymore. Where do we want to go next? Crustle. One of the worst Pokemon in the game to have on your team. People don't play this Pokemon well. Crustle is not that bad, but boy, you just can't count on your ally Crustles. I'm sorry to say it, but for some reason, your ally Crustles just aren't there for you. I wish you were, buddy, but you're simply not. Mamoswine is probably an S tier for me as an ally. It's either A or S. It's very high. Very, very high. It's always good early. They usually use their Unite moves pretty well. Honestly, I think Mamo is one of the better played Pokemon by the community right now. Also, Mamo's doing pretty well. I'm going to put it as an S tier teammate. I love seeing a Mamo on my team, and they usually do very, very well. Blastoise, I'm going to put C. I don't love seeing Blastoise on my team. They're doing a little better right now, but I found Blastoise is one of the Pokemon that for whatever reason, you are at the 5-minute mark and it's still a Wartortle. Every time. They just won't evolve. Go get your experience, Blastoise allies. Please, I'm begging you. We want you to be Blastoise. For some reason, they're constantly underleveled. It's a rough one. All right, let's see. Who's next? Who do we want to do next? Let's do Dragonite. Dragonite's another C for me. It's not D tier bad, but I rarely have ally Dragonites that I feel like change the game in a very considerable way. They're not throwing, but they're rarely securing objectives. They're not doing that well in fights, whether they play Outrage or Hyper Beam. I just feel like you can't count on them lately. Dragonites are nah at best. At best, they're C. I really don't love having them on the team recently. I've not seen a lot of good ones. Let's see. Blissey. Blissey for me is an S tier choice. I think it's hard to be bad with a Pokemon whose whole job is healing and helping your team, because that's all they can do. It's not like they can go off and try to carry or something like that. Their job is to heal and help the team. One of the best in the game at doing this. People who play Blissey in solo queue are saints and heroes. I love you. Thank you whenever you are in my games. Let's see. Aegislash. Aegislash is... It might be... It's probably A for Aegislash, so... I was going to say it's either the best or worst, but the fact of the matter is I don't see a lot of Aegislash who don't know what they're doing. I feel like this is a Pokemon that doesn't get as much play as it used to, and if it does, it's usually by someone who's actually pretty competent with this Pokemon, and they do pretty well. Yeah, I think Aegislash is up there in the A tier, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Let's see who's next. Gardevoir. Gardevoir is a tough one. Gardevoir is... probably B for me. We see so many Gardevoirs lately, and while some of them are good and some of them are bad, in general, I feel like they're all doing all right. And that I think is fair for the B tier. I just see them in almost every single game. I don't know about you, but for whatever reason, I see Gardevoir, it's probably the Battle Pass, in every single freaking game. And because of that, I think people are learning how to play it. It's not the worst, not the best. B. It's B. It's fine. Let's see who's next on the list here. Espeon is either the best or worst. No joke. There are Espeon players that are seriously really good. And then everyone else, I just think, you don't know what you're doing with this Pokemon. You're not helping at all. And then other ones stun every member of the enemy team, get like 5 KO streaks, use their Unite move perfectly. This is a weird one because you wouldn't expect this to be here on this list. But I'm telling you, a good Espeon player is so amazing. And a bad one just feels like, man, there are so many Pokemon you could have used to help the team so much more than this. Whom do we go to next? Pika. Pika is usually fine. I think I'm gonna put it B. I don't feel like a lot of Pikas are the difference makers, even though I think Pika can be played pretty well, especially if you're playing, you know, with a couple people. In general, though, I don't think Pikas are the worst. They're just not the best. If you play with a good one that can shut down enemy carries, you know, just get the stuns on the enemy Absol, get the stuns on the enemy Cinderace, I think you'll be doing pretty well. For some reason, also, I don't know why this is, Pikachu doesn't use its Unite move at Rayquaza. Almost ever. It just doesn't. I don't know why. I wish it did, but it doesn't. All right, who's next? Sylveon. Sylveon's, I think, is an A. It's hard to be bad with Sylveon. The moves are easy. Hyper Voice is easy. Mystical Fire is easy. No matter what, you're at least going to do okay with this Pokemon. You might not set the world on fire and win the match, but I rarely see this Pokemon throwing the game or anything like that. I think it usually does pretty well. It's hard to do poorly with that one. Buzzwole. Buzzwole, I have to put C. I don't even think you get some that really pop off, but in general, I think Buzzwole is a bit underwhelming to have on your team. They just can't seem to get it together, you know? They try their best, but it just doesn't feel like they're really able to make a lot happen. Expect some Buzzwole buffs, by the way, especially with this new battle pass. I mean, you can see right behind me, we've got this new battle pass coming. Expect some Buzzwole buffs, for sure, and it needs them. Not just because of the battle pass, it actually needs them. All right, let's see. Mew. Mew's A. Hard to be bad with Mew. I think throw Mew up into the A. Even better usually, but I rarely see this Pokemon not do anything. I think it's a really solid Pokemon to have on your team because it has Solar Beam at level 1. So yeah, Mew is usually a really good ally. Decidueye, on the other hand, I'm going to put... They're really underwhelming as allies. I have to put it D tier. I think there's some of the most underwhelming allies you can get are Decidueye allies. For a few reasons. One, in their defense, it can be really hard as a Decidueye in solo queue to stay alive because enemies can just get to you so easily and take you out. But every Decidueye, as if it is mandated by the government or whatever, you know, local authority is in your area. Maybe you don't have a government where you are playing Pokemon Unite. Maybe you currently have a roving gang of people who enforce Pokemon Unite rules, and the government doesn't actually worry about that. Fair enough. Someone is mandating that every single Decidueye Unite moves Rayquaza. I don't know why this is. I don't understand it. It will happen every single game. It is a horrible play, but it happens every game. So there you go. That is your Decidueye ally. I'm sorry to say it, Decidueyes, but you don't know what's going on. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening here. Hoopa. I think Hoopa is actually a really solid ally. It's very rare you see them these days, and when you see them, they actually... At least they're putting tricks and hyperspace holes down so that you can head back to base and heal. You know, there are probably other Pokemon you'd rather see in the slot, but I feel like people who are playing Hoopa right now, they're at least doing a good job with that. So Hoopa, I think, is a good Pokemon to have on your team. Ninetales. Boy, Ninetales is a weird one. I'm going to put Ninetales as... It's weird because it's good early and then they always are... It feels like they do nothing at the last bit of the game. I'm going to put it B. I'm going to put it B. Really good early, but later in the game, my Ninetales allies, I had one that decided to jungle the other day for whatever reason. And, you know, it's kind of fun early, but as the game goes on, boy, you wish there were a lot of Pokemon in that slot. I don't even really blame the players. It's just kind of how this Pokemon performs oftentimes. So, B, I would say. Decent early, though. Machamp. Machamps are actually pretty good teammates, usually. Yeah, I like Machamps as teammates. I haven't played a ton of Machamp in the last season or so, but I actually really like them when they're on my side. I feel like Machamps do pretty good for the team. Their Unite move can be a big game changer, and they usually jump in and punch some of the squishier Pokemon with their big old punching hands. So yeah, I like it. I like you on the squad, Machamp. Absol, best or worst ever. Boy, this Pokemon. I mean, boy. It's interesting that speedsters are down here. High skill Pokemon are going to naturally be down here, but Absols, man, it's either they're really good or they're just, I don't know what they're up to. I don't think they know what they're up to. So this one, I feel like all these Pokemon in the bottom here, probably Espeon the least because it at least gets good at level 4, but all these Pokemon on the bottom here, you just think, man, I hope we have a good one this game. All right, moving on. Charizard. Charizard's probably B. It's maybe even getting close to A. I think its recent nerfs don't help it, and it gets level gated a lot. However, once it gets a Unite move, I rarely see Charizards on my team that don't at least use their Unite move, and that's pretty dang powerful. So I'm gonna have to give Charizard the B tier treatment right here. Maybe it used to be better, I don't know. The big thing about this Pokemon is just like Blastoise, you'll see a level 8 Charmeleon walking around for so long, and you think, just go. Please go. Anywhere on the map, go find farm. I'm begging you, please. Get some farm. You need some experience, my guy. Greedent. Best or worst ever? Yeah. Yeah. I rarely see this Pokemon played, by the way. And usually if they play it, they're pretty good. But if it's a bad Greedent, it doesn't know what's happening. But most Greedent players, I think, are actually pretty good. And it's one of the best or worst ever to have on your team. Zarina is really solid. A. Maybe it's a little worse with its nerfs, but it's a really solid Pokemon to have on the team. Yeah, I like Zarina a lot. I like Tree a lot, too. A tier for Tree. Really solid. I don't think it's as good, maybe, as some of the other defenders usually, but I really like Tree. Having a Trevenant on the team, I think, is really fun. And they're usually pretty decent. They're usually decent. Let's see. Duraludon. Duraludon is... I have to put it B, because I can't really say a Duraludon player is the best ever. All they're doing is pressing the A button. This will... Sometimes they'll be really good and they'll help secure objectives. Other times they're at least pressing A. They kind of remind me of Cinderace. Maybe they're a little better than Cinderace sometimes, but just like Cinderace, these two Pokemon... They almost need to have a tier of their own, which is usually pretty solid, but sometimes will just rip the objective, like rip Rayquaza right in front of the enemy's face where they're all there, and your team loses. Azumarill, I think, is solid. A tier, I think that's a fair place to put Azumarill right now. Good at 4, usually fights pretty well. I like Azu on the team. I think it's a really solid Pokemon. When I see it on the team, I'm happy. I'm happy to see it there. Delphox, I'm not in love with seeing Delphox on the team. I think Delphox itself is amazing. Not enough Delphox players play it in the center, and even when they do, I feel like they're probably not playing the moves the way they need to. This Pokemon is kind of broken. It's one of the better Pokemon in the game, I think, especially in the center area, but I don't think people play it particularly well. You could throw your Unite move with this Pokemon every time you see an enemy, and you'll have it back, basically. I just feel like they're not... Yeah, they're not amazing with this Pokemon, I gotta say. And they often play it in lane, and it struggles a bit. Glaceon, usually very good. It's kind of hard to be bad with Glaceon, honestly. It's one of the easiest Pokemon in the game to be good with, I think. Either build you go with is pretty solid on this Pokemon. So I would say I usually am pretty happy to see a Glaceon on my team. They always do at least fine, for sure. Tyranitar. Tyranitar. I have to put this down in the C tier. I do. Please get experience. Please become level 9. You can't do anything until you're level 9. I beg you, go get some experience, Tyranitar. Please, please, please. Please, my sweet friend. A great Pokemon. It's just, man, I think people don't understand how experience hungry this is. You really need to get your levels. Really, really, really need to get your levels with this Pokemon. Dodrio? Dodrio's a weird one. I don't see it played that often, and when I do... Dodrio is such a weird one. I don't actually know where to put this. I'm coming back to you. Scyther, Scissor, usually very good. Yeah, it's hard to have a bad Scissor. Scyther, it's a higher skill ceiling, so, you know, it's very hit and miss, very high risk, high reward, but in general, both of these Pokemon are usually solid additions to the team. Especially a good Scissor. They just live forever. They're great. Clefable, I really like having a Clefable on the team. It's rare that a Clefable doesn't know what they're doing. All they have to do is hit the Moonlight button and walk near allies. They're at least healing everybody, so usually a very solid teammate, and I'm always happy to see someone playing support. So I think Clefable is, yeah, definitely right up there. Zoroark, best or worst ever? No question. I actually don't love seeing Zoroark on my team, because for whatever reason, the enemy team will be the Zoroark that can KO everyone at 5 minutes, and my Zoroark is still farming in the center. They're like not figuring it out for some reason. But I would say if they're a good Zoroark, they're going to crush. And if they're a bad Zoroark, they're just going to feel like dead weight, maybe even after the 7-minute mark or so. So yeah, either the best or worst ever with that one. We've got 2 Urshifus right here. This is Wicked Blow, which I'm going to put up in the A tier, and this is the Water Build, which I'm going to put down in the C tier. So, the Rapid Strike. Rapid Strike is not good. and it needs some buffs. It will get buffs, mark my words. And once it does, it can feel a little bit better. Even early Rapid Strike, I think, is pretty decent, but the other build just can help you secure objectives in crazy good ways and get KOs, and its Unite move's insane, and people usually understand that about it. Every time I see the Water Bear, I'm worried, because I think, oh boy, not a lot of people know how to play the Water Bear super well. Sableye, best or worst ever. For some reason, enemy Sableye, it's always up in the mix. It's hitting you. You're getting feared. You're getting thrown around. Your Sableye, I don't know what they're up to. I don't know where they're going. But, if they actually know how to play Sableye, ooh, they're disgustingly good. Disgustingly good. I love to see a good Sableye on the team. And actually, I'm usually pretty happy to see it, but I have to admit, they either know what they're doing or they really don't. As far as Dodrio is concerned, I think I have to put this one just kind of in the B tier. I don't hate it, and usually they're not as bad with backcapping and stuff like that because they can segment off their scores. I gotta be honest, I don't see a ton of them on my team, and maybe because that's because I play a lot of Dodrio, so I don't get a lot of them. I would love to hear in the comments, if you made it this far in the video, please let me know what you think about the Dodrios you see on your team. Are they helping you? Where do they land on this list? And now it's time, of course, to put our God tier Pokemon. I can't even act like there was gonna be anything else. Could there have ever been anything else? To see on your team, I'm never happier than when I see a Blissey. Never, never, never. If you want to get good at Pokemon Unite, if you're struggling and you want to be good and you want to be helpful to your team, pick someone in the God tier, S tier, maybe A tier. But if you get good with those top 4 Pokemon, everyone is going to be so happy to see you on their team. I swear to you. I swear. And now let's have a little fun. Boop a doop boop 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 a doop a doo doo dee 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 ba doo 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 doo. If you're a great Buzzwole, you're one of the best in the game. That's why you're all the way up here in the S tier. You almost make it to the God tier, but I'm telling you, it is Stored Power Espeon. It is the sleeper pick that is the God tier choice of the week. Its Unite move picks every single person up. You get him with that Future Sight, Unite move, and then all of a sudden you just start tearing through the enemy team. It's good at level 4. It is such an amazing Pokemon, and it is the one I'm the most excited to see on my team for sure. Almost right up there with Sableye. And then of course, like we were saying earlier, our speedsters are just not doing well right now. It's really rough for them. If I see them on my team, I'm always very, very worried. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love you. Thank you. And I'll see you soon. Mwah.